All right, Jules, I was wondering how to do this assessment. It's an assessment. It's not a preview, right?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, spending my summers in Italy, the Italian papers loved making a Formula One analogy.
Right.
You know, obviously, for those who don't know Formula One, you've got 2 cars in the front row, 2 cars in the second row, and so on. It's kind of like a starting grill, if you will, right?
Yeah.
So who are we putting in the front grill?
Oh,
Which
I
2
see.
teams? You see what I'm saying? Arsenal and City, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. You have to really. They've been the 2 best teams for the last 2 seasons. Not that the recruitment has changed drastically the way they would play or anything else, but from Calafiori and Savinho, 2 really good signings for them. That is going to make them a little bit better, I think. So yeah, they're still the 2 favorite, I think, to win the title.
I'll be curious to see. I think both are going to make other moves. Obviously, Arsenal, we'll get to them later. They're linked with Merino. I think they, without unquestionably, could use a central midfield. I don't know if Profilo's the profile, but whatever. If Merino's the profile. I find City really interesting post Alvarez because we haven't heard necessarily a peep about them bringing in a replacement, right? Credibly.
Right.
I'm assuming that'll change. I do wonder, there are some people who look at this and say, well, Pep's leaving in a year, 115 charges. Is this kind of like the party winds down? We have enough to make it 5 in a row and go into history.
Cycle, yeah.
Is there a feeling of that? Or
Maybe. Although I think that Alvarez will be replaced, and especially now with Oscar Bob's injury, I think they just need more there, which they will do. They've got the money. I mean, the profit on Alvarez is an incredible piece of business that they've done to get him that cheap and then to sell him for that much money. And I think Atletico Madrid have overpaid massively for Julian Alvarez. But anyway, surely they will replace him. But yeah, you're right. I think there's a feeling already a bit of this is the end of the cycle. You could see a few players leaving with Pep at the end and saying like, listen, we've had great years here. It's time for something new, and a new chapter will start. And I don't know about the charges. We will talk about it a bit later. I think by the start of the new year, 2025, we will know the sanctions,
maybe,
if any, maybe. So we will see. But yeah, maybe it feels a little bit like that. Although I would not put it past them that they can go and get another treble or quadruple, because I think they'll still be that good and that team that could almost go the season unbeaten.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to drop off unless there are major changes. People, obviously, De Bruyne is in the final year of his contract. Bernardo Silva, or he gets rumored: is he staying? Is he going? But right now, there are no indications of that. But there are 2 weeks left in the window, and 2 weeks in a couple of days. So stay tuned on that one. Who are we putting in the second row?
Right, I think for me, Liverpool will have a really good season. I know there's been no signing.
You're going to give me 2 teams.
Yeah, 2 teams. So Liverpool, one of them too.
Yeah.
And then as much as I don't really, I'm not
know where this is going.
Eric Ten Hag, as you know, the Dutch guy, I do think that with the squad that he has now, 4th place should be United.
If they stay fit and don't all.
I know, but
we put them in the second row. We're not thinking 1 to 4 just to cover our backsides, right?
You agree with that? You agree with Liverpool United, or would you put Spurs or Villa ahead of United?
I think it's very. I think kind of that 4th slot, if you will, I think it's very up for grabs.
Yeah.
Really, really up for grabs because there's a lot of uncertainties, a lot of stuff we don't know. I mean, there have been big changes at Villa. It's not just Douglas Luiz leaving and people coming in, and obviously Chelsea's a crapshoot and everything's still open. But yeah, on paper, I think right now it should probably be Manchester United. Again, assuming people stay put, because they have made the qualitative jump. They're not finished, as you said earlier. I think a defensive midfielder, I think, is pretty essential. I mean, I think Casemiro can turn in a good season. I don't believe
for
this.
Sure, he was good in the Community Shield.
Or even this idea. You people at the end of the season, Casemiro's done. Legs have gone. It depends how you play. Depends what the people around you do.
Yeah.
But I think there's still work to be done. A lot of work to be done on the squad. Liverpool, I kind of feel Zubimendi's or a Zubimendi type is non-negotiable.
But they've been chasing one, number 6. Let's put it like that. Since Fabinho, not just since Fabinho left, but even the last season of Fabinho, where he was not as good as previously, they've been trying from Lavia to Caicedo to Zubimendi now. And I just don't know why they don't go for somebody else and just sign someone.
Well, I mean,
Somebody else than Endo.
Personally, like, it's the kind of thing I would do. I think there's a stigma, especially in England, attached to this. Like, let's say Zubimendi's your top target. For whatever reason, you put a price on it, you don't get the deal done. I would have a backup plan where I go and I take somebody on loan.
I agree.
Just to have a live body there who can play that position. What would sway it for me is I'm a big Stefan Basic fan. I have no idea. I'm assuming he's fit now. I have not seen him play, I think, since, but he saw the few minutes he played when he came back.
Much in preseason either.
If he's fit and you believe in him and Slot's like, yes, I'm Team Basic, okay, fine. Then rather than spending money, Basic, Endo, deal with it that way.
I know, but they would know that gap before making that offer for Zubimendi already. So
no, but I think you would view Zubimendi as, I'm saying, if you can't get Zubimendi, if you can't have that upgrade, can you get by with Basic and Endo?
Maybe, but there's also other players that you can get to that are maybe not exactly like Zubimendi, but still better than Basic that you can get for even less money. I just struggle how you're ready to commit £55 million on a player, and from that, you go to nothing. Well, surely there's something in between the 55 million or even another 55 million midfielder if you have that money available.
But that's why I think I would think in terms of loan, right? Even with a high fee, because if I commit 35 million, let's say, to somebody else and give him a 3-4 year contract, then I've got that guy, and I can't get Zubimendi a year from now, or I can't get that profile, right?
I think it could be a Van Dijk move where you wait 6 months and you go back in January and you sign him.
It's a possibility. It's out there. Speaking of Van Dijk, obviously Van Dijk and Salah, I'll be curious to see how, and Trent as well.
Yeah.
Arguably your two most important players, plus another very important player in Trent, all of them entering the final year of their contract.
That's true.
Everything screams transition season about Liverpool right now, which doesn't mean that they can't do well. Who are we putting in the third row?
Third row, I'd go
Ange, come on.
Oh, yeah, Spurs for sure. And then Villa. Although for Villa, I've got a little question mark over the Champions League, Premier League kind of double, if you want. We saw with Brighton last season under De Zerbi that Europa League and Premier League make them struggle. It was difficult. I think the excitement that you get into playing Champions League for the first time ever for Villa, since the days of the European Cup, but for Champions League for the first time in this new format as well, more games. I think it's very difficult for your players then to refocus on the league at the weekend, like we saw with Brighton to a lesser level last season with the Europa League. So for Villa, even if they signed well and they recruited well, I'm just not sure if they can do both.
What makes you so high on Villa in the sense that they lost Douglas Luiz, who's an important player.
Yeah.
Onana, I think, is fantastic and is probably an upgrade. Other than that, is Maatsen a massive upgrade at left back over Dean?
Oh, I think it was certainly going forward, yeah.
Defensively, with an Emery team?
Not so much, but Dean was not great.
But what makes you think the Villa are going to be better next year?
No, I mean, I think they will be at the same level. I just think that despite the good season that they had last year, I just think that the Champions League is going to pump so much out of them that I can easily... I've put them there more because of what they did last season and also because I would not want to put Chelsea there. So it's as simple as that. Or even Newcastle. So that's why I think they still could finish above Chelsea and Newcastle. So yeah, I put them there, and I think if they finish 6th, for example, with the Champions League at the same time, whatever they do in the Champions League, it's still a very good season for them.
Do Spurs feel like they need to do more business?
I mean...
Archie Gray, Solanke,
the two signings. I mean, Bergvall and young players like that. And Bergvall has looked good, to be fair, in pre-season. I still think that in midfield, where they've lost someone like Højbjerg, not that Højbjerg was a key player for them, but in terms of experience and everything, you still have now Sarr and Bissouma, Bentancur. I would still think that...
And Gray.
And Gray is an outstanding young player, great future ahead of him. I still wonder if you need a bit of experience there, maybe.
Speaking of experience, then I'm assuming in row 4, this is where we find Chelsea and Newcastle. We want to start with Newcastle? Can we just say once and for all, I think we have the evidence. We've been telling you for a long time. Newcastle themselves said it, and they were true to their word. This is not Manchester City part two. Their owners may be from the Gulf, but they're going to try to run a business and grow organically and whatever else. And I think we're seeing that. Elliot Anderson, much hyped young kid, opportunity to go and sell him for a ton of money, and they do that.
Yeah.
And by the way,
and they had to, yeah.
Well, they had to for PSR.
Yeah.
That fee's really big.
Yeah. Too big. I don't really understand it.
Yeah. I don't. That just really doesn't add up.
No.
But what we're seeing, it is development. It is organic.
Yeah, for sure. And it might turn out to be really, really good as well. So, but yeah, right now the fee seems really, really, really overblown.
All right.
Chelsea.
Which brings us to Chelsea under new boss Enzo Maresca.
Did you see this coming? Honestly, did you see them spending that much money again? And they sold well. We have to remind everybody that Madsen, Lewis Hall, Hutchinson, all of that is almost 75 million pounds. So
Hakeem Ziyech.
Yeah, so it's great in terms of selling, but in terms of buying, it's not maybe so much how much money they've spent. It's like the kind of players they signed again, some of the positions that they signed, and really how they're building again these squads.
So this is where I struggle with this a little bit, right? Because I've been told the line. I mean, they made 10 signings this summer, and like some of them will end up in Strasbourg, some of them will stay where they are. A lot of hardcore analytics people, a lot of hardcore scouts. All the guys they brought last year, as I told, like Malagusto, Nico Jackson, whatever, they were hugely, highly rated young players, and you can debate whether they paid too much for them or not. This time around, it does feel a little bit like, okay, you get Dewsbury Hall, who played for Maresca, so Maresca's comfortable with him. I mean, he's young and good player, but not somebody you do cartwheels over. Marc Guiu, who,
there's a reason why his release clause was €6 million.
Well, he's a young player.
Yeah,
but still, like, Omari Kellyman, or is it Omari Kellyman? Whatever his first name is. That seems to be an accounting thing that we've talked about. Neto at 54 million. My mind is blown. Not just his injury record, but also the fact. And it was suggested to me that he played on the right as an inverted winger, but he's left-footed. Oh, look, he can play on the left So what? You won't have an inverted winger on that side? You somebody delivering crosses to Nico?
Yeah. I don't know. Neto is one that really surprised me. Another goalkeeper after Robert Sanchez and Petrovic in Jorgensen.
Less of an issue with that.
Yeah.
He's 22
Although
years
they signed this very promising Belgian kid as well, a goalkeeper. So they have got 9 goalkeepers on their books now, which PSG had 10 last season, so it's nothing new here. But it's just the way this squad has been built. And again, they will sell more. Lukaku is going to go. Chalobah is going to go. So some players are going to go. But it still feels like right now, if you're Maresca, you've struggled a little bit in pre-season in terms of performances, maybe implementing your ideas. You've got a squad of like 40-odd players.
43,
again.
I think, was the last
I'm just
count.
like, have you not learned from what happened in the past? This is all I'm saying.
Look, I think the strategy is very clear. They're doubling down on younger players. They view them, and I'm not talking the football strategy. It's not like kind of like the club strategy. They view them as assets that can be traded, that are going to appreciate in value. It does raise big questions because you also have to keep the fan base engaged. You also have to provide results on the pitch.
Yeah.
And also the pieces have to fit together. And I think those are some of the question marks. I think unquestionably there's going to be more movement. I don't know how much they can get out of Lukaku. I think just on the PSR piece, especially with the Premier League not accepting the hotel deal and everything, I think you could run into trouble unless you really start shifting players and you show that you're trending in that direction. And the problem there is, it's unless you want to sell one of your good young players, which is also difficult to do because most of them have been injured most of the season.
Yeah.
You're looking at Sterling, you're looking at Lukaku.
So and Gallagher as well.
And then obviously Gallagher and Chalobah. But again, Gallagher, you've made it very clear you're not going to keep him. He's got a year left. What do you do now? I mean, if I'm a club, I mean, obviously linked to Atletico Madrid. If I'm Atleti, I sit there and I say, okay, tick tock, let's wait until the last day of the window.
Absolutely.
The reason that might not happen, it's been suggested, is that they need They need the money to do Julian Alvarez,
Yeah.
and that's the Joao Felix and Uncle George. All there's a big mess there. But it's a tough situation to be in if others believe you have to sell. Listen, it could also be that, Todd Bowley and Bedad Bali found, the key to the Magic Kingdom and figured out a way to magic up PSR that we don't know about. Right?
Maybe. You're right. Yeah. And again, they sold well too. Let's not forget that.
This is not our preview, as I said. This is our assessment of where people are right now. The window's still open.
Yeah.
I think actually these next 2 weeks are when you can really make big strides forward and big strides backward. So let's revisit this and let's make our picks maybe in the first international break when we're going to need to fill time.